What is going on, everyone? It is tier list season, and I am here once again with Bryce. What's going on, Bryce?
Chilling. Been kind of sick, and also the format was getting a little stale. I didn't make many videos. I feel like other people were covering what was good ahead of time. But now let's talk about the new stuff. I'm excited.
Yes, BT11 kind of ran its course like right after Nats. It was like
I thought it was a very good format. It's just there was nothing like exciting to do because the format kept changing.
yeah, it was a little weird, but we are here. BT12 just came out, and it is honestly pretty wide open. There are very many decks that are viable, as you can see from our list of decks here at the bottom of our tier list. So we're just going to go ahead and get straight into it. We're just running it through top to bottom, Bryce.
Yeah, it's bottom. It's mostly organized by color, but I wanted to bring up this deck first. First deck on the list, Beelzemon X Antibody.
Yes. Yes.
Or the Beelzemon deck.
Yes. So we both have some experience playing against this deck, and we can both agree that this deck not only has the skill factor in that it's like very strong, and that if you're a good pilot, you will be rewarded, but it also has the bullshit factor where you can just mill your way to a victory. And I don't think there's many decks that can really compete on that level, so I think this is for sure the best deck of the format.
Yeah, this seems like the best deck. It's gonna be the most frustrating deck to lose against, but also people could be really good with it. But the mirror match looks like it's just a luck fest. I mean, you can still outskill people, but there's a lot of luck on top of being skillful. Like, the floor is high for this deck, and the ceiling is high for this deck.
Yes, especially like you mentioned the mirror match. I feel like there's definitely situations where you can be outskilling the mirror and then just lose because your mills were bad and your opponent's mills were better than yours. And that's the kind of situation where you just hate to play that style of mirror match because it's not really up to you at that point. Like you could literally be making the best plays, your opponent could be making the worst plays, but you mill like nothing but like Itmon X's and like stuff that doesn't do things when they mill, and your opponent mills like Deathslinger, Wizard X, like or like Wizardmon, like I don't know.
Yeah. Or the mill. The best one is the EX2 Itmon that just mills you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You draw 3 EX2 Itmons and your opponent mills them all. Like exactly. Like it's a lot of variance in that matchup, and while there is room for skill, I feel like sometimes the variance is going to make up for whatever skill gap there could be. So if this really is like tier 1, like some people are saying almost tier 0 meta, and you're going to be playing a lot of Beelzemon mirrors, it's going to be pretty frustrating, I feel like.
Yeah. This is clearly the best deck. It has some actual like counters, so it's not just undefeatable. I think the problem is that its counters are beat up by one of the other best decks of the format. But other than that, this deck is just amazing. It's so strong.
Yeah, this is definitely like a... Honestly, if you get like a strong hand and strong mills, you're probably winning on turn 3. It's pretty gross. Like, it's super fast. It's probably on par with Metal Garurumon X in terms of speed. It might even be a little faster. And like, if we're talking like Beelza versus Melga, then Beelza has the edge because it can actually play bombs.
Yeah, I think the standard builds are playing 9 or 10.
Yeah,
on top of it being just a gross aggro deck.
Yeah, your 4 Deathslingers, your 4 Rivals Barrages, and then like 1 or 2 7 full clusters.
Yeah, 1 or 2. What I heard is 2 is good if Wargreymon is popular, and otherwise you want to play 1. That also, as an aggro deck, normally a deck like Security Control is pretty good against aggro or stacked decks. Because of Beelzemon X Antibody's ability to trash security at any point, it actually is good against that matchup too. So
yeah,
just an insane deck.
Yeah, this is probably the deck that has the most I win options out of like any deck we've seen up until this point, which is pretty gross.
All right, moving on to our next decks. This is going to be like kind of our multicolored or like off-colored decks. First one is a very important deck of this format, pretty most iconic deck of this format. It's going to be the new Hunter archetype. What do you think? I've been playing this deck as a recommendation from a friend. It's very skill testing, and yeah, it feels like that honestly. What do you think about this deck personally?
Okay, so I've played against it a couple times. I haven't played it myself, but just playing against it, it feels like very similar to playing against Crossheart, except this deck has like a different curve, whereas Crossheart is very like early aggro focus, and then at the end of the game they win with, like with a bunch of free guys. I feel like Hunters is kind of like a more mid game where like they don't really do anything at the beginning of the game. Like they can like cross into things, they play their tamers for free, they set up their board, and then once their board is set up and they have like enough things saved into their tamers, they just start playing Digimon for free, Digivolving for free, and then they make a Digimon and they can just answer whatever board you make. So it's a very interesting deck. I don't think we've really seen a deck like this. Obviously, the closest like analog is Cross Heart, but this deck definitely plays differently. Similar mechanics, but there are like different curves to the deck, and I don't know how I feel about the deck overall. It is definitely strong, for sure. It's strong, but it has clear weak points. And I think the biggest one is the fact that you're swinging with Arrestor Superior mode as like your main hitter. And if he dies, you lose a lot of your resources. And he's only like 10k, maybe he has jamming, maybe he's 12k. But if you have like a bomb that like deletes Digimon in security, like I don't know, Kakaitis Breath, Rivals Barrage, Death Slinger with 10 cards in trash, then you're gonna lose out on a lot.
From my experiences with this deck, I think it's really strong, and once it gets set up, it actually could just rebuild its resources pretty well. But there's a lot of resource management to take care of because you only have a limited amount of like Digimon with save and Digimon and like tamers and stuff in your hand, and so you have to be really good at managing your resources. But I think this deck, well played, is a tier 1 deck. It can answer literally any board I've seen, and on top of that, it's one of the best Quartzmon decks, and I think Quartzmon's going to be a defining card of this format.
I think this is probably the best Quartzmon deck.
Yeah, probably. Like Quartzmon, like literally shuts down a bunch of decks.
Yeah,
there's a deck I thought would be pretty good this format, but Quartzmon's existence actually like brings it down like a tier and a half almost.
I agree, and I think this is just a deck where if you can survive like the first 3 turns of the game and make your board, then you're probably in a winning position.
Yeah, it's just also you have to be pretty good at resource management. There's a lot of like little micro decisions you have to make every single turn, just because of the way the mechanics work of the deck. But if you're skilled at the deck I think is a tier 1 deck.
Yeah, because I mean, playing against you, like you're playing Hunters, like sometimes like turn 2 you would have 1 card in your hand just because like you're crossing and you're like playing your tamers from your hand. And you know, you're like, oh, he only has 1 card in his hand, like what can he do? And then all of a sudden, like 2 turns later, your hand is full of cards because like your inheritables draw cards, and then like you can control board with superior mode. So if you just draw the right order of your cards, and like you said, like you have good resource management of like what order you play your cards in, understanding your opponent's board, like what you can do to answer them, then I think you're going to be in good position with this deck as long as you can make it past turn 3, turn 4.
Yeah, its 2 biggest weaknesses is its early game is a little rough. Yeah. And it has like no room to play bombs. The deck needs to be as efficient as possible with like the cards it plays. Like everything needs to be working with the archetype, or it feels really clunky.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference between this deck and Cross Heart. Where like Cross Heart is also a multicolor deck, but they don't have to run as many like cards for their archetype, so there's room for text. So that's why you see Crimson Blaze, Lonky, Death X. What else is like a Cross Heart tech? You can even play like Psychmon, Gazimon, Mervimon, like all the, you know, Gravity Crush, Blinding Raid. Like Hunters has no room for those cards. Like there's only archetype. Like that's it.
Only archetype. It is nice, speaking of only archetype, it's very cheap to build. Every single card of this deck is in this current set. You could like, there are some tech decisions like Calling from the Darkness is decent. I've been trying Schwartz, the purple option that kills based on how many tamers you have. Yeah. But there really is like maybe like 4 tech slots, but like 3 of those are going to be what number of ratios of the in-archetype stuff you want to be playing.
Yes, I agree. The deck building is in the card numbers, not the card choices.
Yeah, but yeah, very good deck. It's just very skill testing, but also really strong. And it shuts out any decks that are slow, because once it sets up, it can remove stacks for free. It has the least interactive way to remove stacks in the game.
Yes.
Every deck wants to play a Tamer plus a Digimon. So as long as you have 2 things on board, this deck can remove anything. And if that doesn't work, Quartzmon can shut down everything else.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting deck. Like I said, we haven't really had a deck like this before in this game. So the fact that it exists in the way that it does is cool. Like it has some clear weaknesses. Like I think if you can like stick a Psychmon or a what are the ones? The Gaussmon, Siako, Cutemon.
Gaussmon, Siak, yeah, the ones that you can't reduce Digivolve cost. Those are more volatile than the can't reduce play cost because you can play around reduce play cost very well.
That's true.
And your deck has a lot of things that remove small bodies, but that they do slow you down a decent chunk by having them out.
Yeah, so we haven't really seen those in the meta for a little bit, but I think they will come back if Hunters is popular.
Yeah. And it probably will, even if it's like a lot harder than people assume, because it is a very cheap deck, very affordable.
Yeah, like you say, you can build this deck probably out of like 2 boxes and then buy like a couple superior modes online. Like
I literally built the whole deck asking a bunch of people for their commons and rares, and then just got superior mode and Quartzmon.
Mm-hmm. It's
anyway,
probably like a $30 deck. Yep, move on.
Next decks. So the next two are both the cross decks. So this is the Shout 7 variant and the Merva variant.
Okay.
What about Shout 7? How do you feel?
I feel like these decks are equally strong in different scenarios. Do you get what I mean? Like Cross 7 having the access to just like the removal out of nowhere from your hand is very strong in certain matchups, and Merva just being able to go wide out of nowhere and just like play 4 guys, like 3 attack, 4 attacks in one turn out of nowhere, also very strong. If I had to give the edge to one, I think Merva is probably tier 1 and Cross 7 is probably like high 1.5, just because I think Cross 7 is a little clunkier in the cards it has to play.
I think that Cross 7 might be just a bit even worse than that, only because I think this deck has a severe weakness to Quartzmon. And Merva fixes that issue more than the 7 version does. The 7 version relies on it, and decks that play Quartzmon are generally fast enough that if you get rid of the Quartzmon, that you have to do it by giving them a lot of memory, and they can just do...
They can make the Quartzmon again. Yeah.
They either make the Quartzmon again, or they just kill you from how much resources you had to give them to get rid of it. Like, the Cross 7 version has to either have pieces in hand, or hard play it with like minimal pieces in hand to deal with it.
That's
like otherwise
true.
they're giving their opponent a ton of memory, whereas the Merva version, instead of dealing with it, can just try to end the game.
Yeah, that's true, because they can just 7 memory, play out Merva, bring out 2 more guys, swing 3 times. Like you can't do anything again with that with Quartzmon.
So I think the Merva version is tier 1. I think this one might actually be a low 1.5 because I think Quartzmon's going to be a defining card of the format.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, it's just Quartzmon difference, I guess.
It is the Quartzmon difference, and I think Quartzmon decks in general are very boon. So that's one of the reasons Superior Mode or the Hunter deck is so high, and why another deck might be a little higher than it previously placed.
Fair enough. And I will say about both of these crossheart decks, like they aren't exactly the same as they were in BT11, BT12. You do have some crossheart cards that are new. The new Shaman King mode. You can play Taiki for free, or not. Yeah, you play Taiki for free, but you have to cross into it for -2. So
it costs 3.
Yeah,
you play at Hunters as well, so it's Hunter support that's also cross support.
There's some cross support for sure, so someone could get spicy.
There's also the Cross 7, or not Cross 7, the
Cross 7 Superior. Yeah,
that is good for the Cross 7 variant, but it's just not crazy. It's a nice card to add to the deck.
That's true, because as long as you have a Shoutmon on the board, you can cross with the Shoutmon and then cross from board, Tamers, or Trash. So you can definitely stack in a bunch of guys in there and make them super cheap.
Yeah, it's a nice card. It's nothing that like changes the deck dramatically.
Yeah.
Like certain cards, Spielsmon X.
Agreed. So, yep. All right. Next
deck, Mother. I don't know how I feel about this deck. This deck used to be able to beat Beelzemon when Beelzemon was a little slower. I don't know how I feel about that now.
I think this deck is just matchup roulette.
Matchup roulette, and it's very slow. It's always been slow, and I think the format's only gone faster and faster.
Yeah, it's just like matchup roulette and speed check.
And even if it's not like faster and faster, it's a bit more efficient. Like, yeah. So I think this is tier 3, but it does still hard counter some decks, and it might make a comeback because people are trying to counter certain things.
I think tier 3 is a good spot for it for sure. Yeah, just overall, I feel like games are not really in your control. Like you play your deck's engine, and then you just are like checking if your opponent can beat you or not. Like the game is
before
in
you
your opponent's
gatekeeper
control. Yeah,
before
not
you gatekeeper lock them.
Yes, exactly. Which is like fine, I guess. I don't know. Tier 3 for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying for Hunter's Deal with this deck though, because Hunter's Deal with levels a lot of the time.
That's true. Like anything with level based deletion is gonna have like an awkward time against this deck. But yeah,
Yeah,
again,
it's not. Yeah,
this deck is very slow. So if you can beat them before turn 6 or 5, I guess if they have X antibody, and
yeah.
if they see Gatekeeper, then you're fine.
Next up, Alphamon. Alphamon hasn't really gotten anything. It's kind of in the new Alphamon support waiting room.
Yeah.
It still can sometimes do crazy stuff because Oryuken's a crazy card. The rest of the support just isn't like as supported as well as the limited to one card did.
Yeah, I mean it's just Alphamon. It's nothing crazy. You can do some things with you can do Alphamon bottom end with Greymon top end, and then you get access to like what is it, Coda and what's the other one? Koji?
Yuji?
Yeah, Coda and Yuji.
Yeah.
But you lose protection, so I don't know if that's necessarily worth it. But yeah.
Alphamon's Alphamon. It hasn't got new support yet. It just sometimes does cool stuff, and it has one of the best boss cards in the game. It's just not supported enough at the moment.
Yeah.
All right, Commandramon. A lot of people's fan favorite archetypes. And I think this deck is going to be a tier 2 deck because it is a deck that can play Quartzmon.
True. Technically true. I will say about Commandramon, it's probably just worse crossheart.
Probably. It's not fast. It does like similar thing, but not as fast. Its only leg up against crossheart is that it can actually play Quartzmon because Dartramon for 3 evolve into Quartz to like slow a game down when you need like a fallback plan.
Okay, hear me out. You could play Quartzmon in Crossheart, all right? Let me tell you how. Okay, so Astramon digivolves over Psychmon, right? Right?
It digivolves over anything with save, actually.
It digivolves over anything with save, and it also digivolves over Psychmon. So you can digivolve it over Darulamon, Ballista. You can tech in the new Psychmon, or you can just play the old Psychmon if you're playing Merva. You know, you can wall out your opponent with the Psychmon, digivolve it into Astamon, and then digivolve it into Quartzmon. Just saying.
It's spicy. Yeah, I do think Commandron is just worse crossheart, but it can consistently, without any gimmicks, play Quartzmon, which is nice for the deck.
Yeah. Yeah. The boon for Commandramon would be the access to black options. And I don't know if Ultimate Flare and Iron Fist are good enough to compensate for the fact that you're not crossheart.
Yeah, Congo is nice against cross-heart decks, but not every deck's cross-heart. Like,
yeah.
Arrestrabot Superior Mode, I think it costs 9s. Like, technically, Beelzebub does not care once it starts going off. So, Congo's not, like, really it right now.
Yep.
Anyway. But yeah, I think it's tier 2. It still does a good thing, and you play the good new card. One of the defining cards of the set. So.
I think Commanderman's always tier 2.
Yeah, except for the one time where it rose higher.
True.
Next up is Dark Knightmon. How do you feel about Dark Knightmon?
This is a deck that has the bullshit factor. Because if you don't know what this deck does, they're gonna like start playing cards and you're gonna call bullshit on them. You're like, okay, why did you just play 3 cards when I deleted you? Like, so what I started doing is when I play against Dark Knightmon, I always ask, what do you do if I kill this card? That's my number one question. I'm like, okay, I don't care what card you have. Okay, I'm gonna swing over your guy. What would you do if I killed your guy? And then they have to tell me, and then I usually be like, okay, I don't want that to happen, or I do want that to happen. You know, that's the number one question you have to ask when you're playing against Dark Knightmon. What does your guy do when it dies? And if you can figure that out, then it's probably a pretty mid-tier deck. I would say this is probably tier 3.
I'd say it's tier 3, but I've heard a thing that this deck actually hard counters Beelzebub.
I don't know about hard counter, bro. I feel like they're just too fast.
They can't break through how many floaters you have. The deck needs to swing to win.
I mean, I hear you. Yeah, you want to join in, Brian?
Sure.
Yeah. All right, we got Floaty Bear on the microphone. What's going on, Brian?
What's going on, guys?
Yeah. All right, you know anything about Dark Knightmon, Brian?
Nope, it's weird.
It's weird, yeah. Yeah, I think it's tier 3.
I'm willing to put it in tier 2 because I've legit heard that it's like 90-10. It's not, but it loses everything.
What? Yeah, but you're gonna lose everything else. I don't know, man. I think that's tier 3.
Good matchups,
yeah.
but are flawed is my tier 2 thing. So,
okay, it has okay. So one good matchup and flawed and everything else. Okay, tier 3 is not strong, but can pull off surprise finishes. I feel like if I'm playing fucking Beelzemon and I get surprised by Dark Knightmon beating me, I think that's right.
All right.
You got a tier 2.5 going on here?
No. I'm not making another tier. But I do think that I have heard this matchup is like unwinnable for Bills, which I want to at least see in action. And I think that might, because of that matchup alone, it might be decent. But it also hard loses the Cross Hunter.
Might just be speed difference, yeah. It's actually it's brain. I feel Dark Knight is brain difference. If you know what the cards do, you can probably win. If you don't know what your opponent the fuck is doing, and then they just start spamming their board because you deleted their guys, you're gonna lose.
Anyway, similarly, this I'm actually gonna put in the memes tier ahead of time. I don't think this deck is good.
Whoa, you were just hyping up Quartzmon, and you put the Quartzmon deck in the bottom tier 4.
That's true.
I don't know.
I think the deck still is way too slow for what it does. Maybe it goes tier 3, but
yeah,
I think other Quartzmon decks are just so much better.
Okay, so I will say this. So just from what I know about Diaboromon is that they spam a bunch of blocker tokens, and that's how they win. So if you make Quartzmon in this deck, you're going to suspend all your tokens and it can't do anything. I feel that just kills like one of your win conditions just to be a Quartzmon deck. That seems kind of weird.
Yeah, but generally when you have a Quartzmon out, you can't really attack. Like, you only attack like one time.
Yeah.
Before so like by getting rid of the Quartzmon, you get this unsuspend first a lot of the times, which I think is what makes it so strong.
Yeah.
And with all their tokens, the Quartzmon is more likely to trash multiple security cards.
Yeah.
But
actually, that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Maybe it goes up here instead of down in the memes, but it's not very good. It's the only support card it got. It's still a pretty slow deck in general.
Yeah, I think
it was already slow at getting to Diaboromon.
I think tier 3 is fine. Yeah.
Next up is Machinedramon. Machinedramon, I think, is one of the best make a big blocker deck. Yeah. But it's also could be inconsistent and slow.
They got a new card, right?
Yes, they got the Chaos Dramon X Antibody, which is just even more annoying to deal with than the other Machinedramon Chaos Dramons. It copies all of the effects of what's in its stack on top of having like if it would be deleted, trash the top card of the security, and that works with its protection.
Did they not get a new option that like enables them?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I think there's an option that like you could use to delete stuff, but it's like a one of maybe.
Hold on, looking phase. I'm on .dev right now, real quick.
We had this part out.
Super Eradication Attack. Cost 2, black red option. While you have a level 6 Digimon with Machine in its traits in play, you may use this card without meeting its color requirements. Okay, key. Main effect, choose one of your Digimon with Cyborg or Machine in its traits. Delete that Digimon and one of your opponent's Digimon with DP less than or equal to the chosen Digimon DP. I think that's actually pretty big. Because I remember the Machinedramon from last set needs to be deleted to use its effect.
That is true, and also you don't technically need to delete it. You could still protect it and get the effect.
Okay. Yeah, true. Which makes this card even better.
It does make it better. I've seen it as like a 1 or 2 of them. It's not like a crazy card. But I just think, with the best deck being stopped by walls, I think this is a pretty good wall card to put up. It also has been like putting like surprising results in like the end of last format as well. I think maybe tier 2, it might go up here, but maybe not ready. Maybe it's too situational for that. And it hard loses to Hunters.
That's true. This deck for sure hard loses to Hunters.
It's one of those decks, maybe I beat Beelzemon, but hard loses to Hunters is, I think, a big going to be a theme for this format.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of losing the Hunters.
Deck you've been playing a lot.
The
Bloom Quartz.
This deck is trash. I hate this deck. It's tier 2, but I hate this deck. Yeah.
Corpsmon doesn't bump it up a tier?
No. There's no saving drawing 3 Bloom Lords, Samadhi Santiana Corpsmon as your opening hand.
I played against this deck twice yesterday.
And you beat it twice.
I beat it twice. It wasn't. Yeah, I mean, it gives you a run, but it putters out the same way it used to.
Yeah, exactly. It just putters
And
out.
if you answer Quartzmon, it's just they can't do anything.
Yep.
This deck's always been very vulnerable to getting its board destroyed, and like so once it makes it board, it's like full committed.
Yeah.
I think it can make a stronger board than it can before, and it is probably the fastest Quartzmon deck when it's working. But that said, it does have that inherent issues it's always had.
The best board I've made is I made Quartzmon, Hydramon, and the can't special summon cards Pomumon against a Massamon. And he was salty because he literally could not do anything. So that's the best board I made. And other than that, like, I just got, Death X just answers you. Like, Crossheart is just faster than you. Like, you just have to pray to Jesus that you can make Quartzmon before they can do anything, and they don't have an answer. It's just a tier 2 deck. It's the same Bloom Lord, except you have a boss monster that can help you out in like slightly bad matchups that you had before, but you have to get there, and sometimes you're just not going to get there.
It does feel nice that green gets an actual level 7 though.
Yeah, but there's no good green decks right now, so it's kind of irrelevant.
Speaking of not good green decks, how do you feel about the Grandis?
For fun.
For fun?
Yep.
For fun. Yeah, it's for fun.
An OTA deck is for fun?
Okay, no, or realistically, it's probably tier 3, but I'm hating. I'm hating.
I played this deck in a regional recently, and it wasn't the new format, but still, like, I got absolutely outclassed by anything that was a little bit faster than me, like and the matchups didn't feel close either. Like, it wasn't like, one turn off. It was I just lose instantly to anything other than Blackboard Gray with like where I have a good matchup.
Yeah. So it counters the Greymon decks, but it's really bad versus Cross and decks that are like at that level of speed.
Cross Hunter's going to beat it. Cross Heart is going to beat it. I think even Bloom Lord probably beats. I mean, like, Merva's going to beat it. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing Grandis has going for it is that it can play Terrier and Pomumon. Like, in Bloom Lord, if you're going to play Terriermon, you're sacrificing like cards you can special summon with your effects, because Terriermon is not a veggie. So Bloom Lord can fit both of those cards in pretty comfortably, or not Bloom Lord. Grandis can.
Grandis can. Yeah, and I made boards that included those two cards and still got my ass kicked by Cross Heart. Like, it didn't matter.
Yeah, I mean that's also like just like a regular ass Grandis hand. If you draw mid and you're just trying to like grind out the game, I think you probably lose against most of the field. If you draw like level 3, 4, 5, both 6s. And then, like, they checked Mimi for second security, and you have a hybrid in your hand. Like, you're gonna win, but that's like that perfect high roll. I don't know. Yeah. It's tier 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will believe the green players on that one.
Yeah, and also the fucking Deathslinger being able to kill you out of security is doo doo.
And the other cards.
And Rivals Barrage. Rivals Barrage. Yeah.
Oh, and the new one, the 7 cluster.
7 cluster. Yeah. You cannot play into Beelzemon. Yeah.
The best deck has 10 security bombs and is fast.
Yeah, you can't play into Beelzemon. Yeah, it's horrible. Melga has the same problem, but we'll get there, I guess.
I do want to say that everybody except for us is saying that this deck's here, so I'm really excited to see if we're right or not.
It's tier 2, bro. It's tier 2.
Okay.
It's literally the same deck. Except sometimes you make Quartzmon and you win, and that's not enough.
Okay. Anyway, Bagra Army. I still want to put this for fun. It got a new card.
Oh, tier 3.
The deck does so many cool little things. Its boss monsters are always really cool. The engine of Bagra is so bad. I tried it before. They got no new cards also. The Bagra engine of like the rookies and champions is awful. If they had a better engine, it actually might be a high tier deck because Bagramon's effect's really strong. The Lilithmon effect was pretty strong. Darkness Bagra has a pretty strong effect. But everything that's not the boss monsters is so terrible for this.
All right, I'm gonna give you guys a tech. Okay, Bagra Army is not a cross deck. It's not a cross deck. Okay, You play the hybrids. You play the hybrids with like the Bagra cards that you can fit in, and then you hybrid, and then you make the Bagra Blastmon, and you swing for game. That's it. The Bagra Blastmon is the best card in the deck.
And what
it's Bagra Darkness is what it's called?
No, it's Blastmon.
Oh,
Blastmon with a Bagra army trait. It's from BT10 or whatever. It's the one that gains rush if it has 3 sources underneath it, and you play it for like 3 memory or whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna put this for fun. I don't think it's good.
That doesn't sound good or consistent to me.
No, it's All right.
Well, like I said, the low end is way too weak.
Yeah.
All right, Beelstarmon.
Tier 3.
Tier 3.
It's just worse Beelzemon in every way.
Worse Beelzemon every way. Beelzemon gets to play bombs. This deck has to play a ton of bombs that are bad. This deck's bombs increase its power and consistency. This deck wants to mill. This deck wants to mill, but gets better stuff for it.
Yes, if you're playing mill Beelstars, so you can play Rivals Barrage, you are a strictly worse Beelzemon. If you're playing the old Beelstar, where you play Scatter Mode and like you just try to like hand fakes and like dump cards from your hand to your trash, then you lose access to Rivals Barrage, and at that point you have to fit in other level 7s. So you're probably still playing Cocytus Breath and like the blue cards, and then you have to play the blue engine, and you're just like way more inconsistent. And also, Mill Beelstar is actually slower than, it's slower than Eismon Beelstar, which you would think it's the other way around, but it's not. Like, Eismon is faster than anything you can mill. Maybe now it's different with the Immon X stuff, but at that point, like I said, you're just worse Beelzemon, so.
Yeah, also, the fact that you're a deck that wants them to hit security bombs against the best deck being with trash security bombs is also another, like, nail in the coffin for this deck.
Yes.
Sometimes it does have good grind game against any slow deck, but like the best deck right now is fast.
Yeah, your late game is just like nailbone, like spam nailbone, but you're not gonna get there against Beelzebon, Hunters, Crossheart. There's just no way.
Yeah, their mid games and late games are too fast. They get to them too fast.
Yeah.
All right, now it's time for me to cope. This deck, I thought with Mulligan, this is Mastamon. I thought with Mulligans. Last format, it would be move up to tier 1 status. I think I was 100% wrong, and it was still a tier 2 deck.
I think this is worse than tier 2. I think it's tier 3.
I think it's worse now. But I was going to start... Even last format, where I thought it might get better, it turns out that by getting rid of Black or Greymon as the best deck, it opened up Cross to be a better deck, and Cross is too fast for this deck.
Yeah.
So that made this deck way worse than anticipated. On top of that, it's very reliant on its Mirai Tamer, which is a slow, expensive Tamer that you need to tap for its effect, which now Quartzmon stops, and the best deck of the game, Trash Security. This is low tier 3. Maybe even, like, it just does not fit into the format right now.
I think it's tier 3 at the very least. I think if you're good at Mastamon, like, you can do some bullshit.
Mastamon still does really strong things. Gothmon is still a really strong card. It's just, it's too slow. And the new support it got in BT11 wasn't making it faster. It just made it different.
Yeah.
And so, it's too slow. Maybe it's better than these other decks, like some of these other decks. More closer to like Grandis and Beelstar. But it's too slow.
Yeah, that looks right to me.
Makes me sad. This is one of my favorite decks to play. I always find it really fun, but it's just not it right now.
Yeah, I think the next deck is probably just Mastamon, but better.
Purple Loop decks. All the Purple Loop decks.
Yes.
I think the best version is probably either the Merva aggro version or the Minerva Loop version with like a Tech Lilith, not Lilith focused. I
think Minerva is good against Crossheart decks.
Yeah, it's just having Minerva on the field is really hard for Crossheart decks to deal with.
Yeah.
And then also it has a defensive route of they can revive retaliation blockers, which is really hard for some decks to even break through.
Yep,
it's true.
Hunter is really strong against this deck though because it just removes everything. The Shoutmon and the Shoutmon Omni Shoutmon, just their inheritables kill 4 care less,
the
which is where your retaliation cards are. While the superior mode just bot decks the Merva.
Yeah, I guess the answer would be to play more. What do you call it? The Ghosties?
Oh, the Ghostmon, maybe.
His name's not Ghostmon.
Soulmon.
Yeah. Play more Soulsmon, and then you can boost your guys. But yeah, at that point, you're giving up Dark Lizard, Retal, and draw trash one. Yeah.
The consistency over instead of the power. But yeah, I think the deck's still pretty good. Didn't get any new cards, but
It's
the
for
deck's
sure tier
just
2.
strong.
Yeah, for
It's a
sure
strong
tier
deck.
2. I'll say the pure mover rush version might be tier 1.5. Put this deck at the top of tier 2. This is better than all the other decks in tier 2.
Yeah,
For sure.
this deck's
Yeah.
pretty strong. And like it is, I was playing it at a tournament like yesterday. It was like the first real BT12 tournament, and it just felt decent against everything. Still,
Yeah, I agree.
it just felt kind of weak against Cross Hunter.
Yeah. It's like Merva Cross, but like a little bit worse. But you have different options.
And different your matchup process is a little bit different. And also, you get the insane combo plays that reward smart thinking. So you get to feel like a big brain person sometimes.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is Galmon. Galmon got a bunch of new support this set.
I don't know anything about the deck, but I'm going to assume it's tier 2.
I think it's tier 2. It's not higher. It still has Galmon problems, but they have some of the new support kind of fixes those problems a bit. They got a new Tocado that can let them warp from any Guilmon. And the material, it just requires you to have the whole line in your trash as opposed to your hand.
Yeah.
They got a new Gallantmon and a new Growlmon that reward you if you don't have anything to delete, which is one of this deck's biggest problems before, was that it did nothing if your opponent had nothing. But now it has an option when your opponent doesn't have nothing, where they gain extra memory and get extra check, and not extra checks, but like trash security. It's decent. It's still just too fragile. It has no like protection or super like high speed except for the new warping. It's not the greatest red deck, but it's decent, and they got new support.
Yeah, I think tier 2 is fine.
And Crimsons are still a really good boss card, especially if they can like somehow get it against Beals. They'll auto win the game, but they have to outspeed Beals somehow.
Yeah.
Beals could be way too fast, which this deck's supposed to counter Beelsmon, but it's probably not fast enough.
Just starter deck diff.
Starter deck diff, yeah. Beelsmon X diff.
Yeah.
Jessmon.
Tier 4.
Tier 4 fun?
What do you do with Jessmon?
I agree. I actually think this deck is trash right now.
Yeah.
So what this deck does is it makes a giant board and tries to like use that board to win the game. It is a little slow to set up, so it gets eaten by fast decks. One of the best decks, it's really weak to Crossheart, which is a really fast deck that just eats this deck alive. One of the decks that kind of is like at the same speed or like just not quite fast enough is Cross Hunter. But Cross Hunter will just destroy an entire board of Sister Mons by playing one superior mode to get rid of your Jessmon.
Yep.
It's just, it has way too many bad matchups right now.
Yep.
And it got no new support to really benefit those bad matchups.
Yeah, and the deck, it still loses to itself also.
It still loses to itself. And its big play gives over a ton of memory, which decks can really capitalize on right now.
Yeah.
Not good enough to actually a tier 4 deck after people put it almost was pushing tier 1.5 or a little bit when it was able to exactly counter black or gray as the best deck, but it is just fallen out. It doesn't have a good matchup.
I don't think that exists anymore because now you can just raid over the GX. Probably, I think you probably get big enough, right? Actually, maybe not. GX gets pretty big. You get like 20k.
Yeah, GX gets infinitely big. The new Greymon stuff is good, and it might still be good against Greymon, but I don't think Greymon's gonna be popular enough for this deck to rise in tiers.
Yeah, I agree.
It has too many other matchups that are just awful. And also, I think it might just lose the Quartzmon.
Yeah, it for sure just loses the Quartzmon.
So, just not good into anything really in the meta, so it kind of just drops all the way down. All right. The new Greymon decks. I'm kind of just grouping all the Greymon decks together.
Yeah, tier 1.
Tier 1?
Big fat tier 1.
There's a lot of different... Basically, it's just the whole line kind of is homogenized between Greymon decks right now.
Yeah.
And then you can just tech out your top end. Like, do I want to go more OTK focused with the new Raid Greymon plus Greymon X, War Greymon X? Do I want to go black stuff? Do I want to go for like more control still, play the Guilemon and all that? Yeah. The new stuff is just really strong. You have to play a lot of free advantage. Get the new free tamers is really good, and it does it while naturally going through its line and removing your opponent's board.
Yeah, I think we've just kind of circled all the way back to just Greymon tribal. Like, I feel like the level 1 through 4, I feel is pretty much all the same. Like level 5, like it's like the new Metal Greymon. I guess piercing, and it's like the whatever.
Raid, it's piercing raid, and when it switches targets, play a tamer for free that costs 4 or less. Yeah,
so that one's pretty broken. And then you still have the old BT8 DGG Evolve and delete 3k or less Metal Greymon, which is still good. and then you have your choice of Metal Greymon X. So your level 5s you can tech out, and then your level 6s you can tech out. Level 7s, all your
I would say
Omnimons.
the new War Greymon is probably the best one. Even though you can tech out like the other stuff, I think it gets double attack and double block. Because the way it works is when a target is switched, all turns unsuspend, and the new Metal Greymon gives piercing.
Yeah.
On top of it, having all its other broken effects.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, like you still have to do, like, you know, Black War Greymon OG can delete Tamers, you know, like, and then if you're playing that one, then you might as well play Black War Greymon X, and then you don't even have to play the OG Black War Grey because you can just play X antibody, and that way you can still get the Black War Grey X effect. Like,
very, very techable in terms of like its top end. But yeah, I think it's the most well-rounded deck. Sometimes Beelzemon can actually lose because it's hard to deal with a big blocker stack with multiple layers of protection. It can delete Tamers, which means it's good against the Tamer decks. I don't think it's the best deck. It does it can still have Greymon is slow if I don't draw my one of now.
Yeah.
But it's a really good deck. Very, very, very well-rounded.
Yep. And it makes a much better use of Hades Force now than it did before, which is saying something, because you can Hades Force and then raid.
That's true. So it lets you delete Tamers and finish off their board if they still had a board left.
Yes. So we'll see. I think the only card that this deck kind of lost is probably Gaiamon. I think Gaiamon probably got lost in the mix.
Yeah, it doesn't quite. It's more with the Black War Grey stuff, and you want to play the new Raid War Greymon, even if you're playing the old Black War Grey and Black War Grey X.
Yeah. So there's a lot of techs you can do with this deck, but I think you can play like the worst version of this deck, and it's probably still at least 1.5. So
yeah, pretty good deck though. It just has a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
All right. Ancient Grey OTK. It's one of the weaker OTK decks.
I think it's a 3. Yeah, 3.
Just because it has OTK potential still.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you could probably use the new red hybrid stuff to some capacity, right? Because it gains security tech +1 off any hybrids.
Yeah, the new red hybrid stuff is pretty good, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, so I'm just gonna assume that somehow buffs this deck, but it's probably just at least tier 3, maybe tier 2.
It's probably tier 3 just because you'd rather play the red hybrid stuff in its new own archetype now.
Yeah.
All right, Dorbrick Wand. I think this is a tier 2 deck.
Yeah, bottom of tier 2, top of tier 3 for sure.
It just can like win. It technically can be the fastest deck. It's just, it's inconsistent.
Yeah, that's true. If you draw the right hand, you can actually win on turn 0, I think. Right? Yeah.
Not turn 0, but like turn like 2.
Okay, yeah, technically not turn 0. Yeah, I guess. Okay, it's turn 0. You start the game. Opponent is turn 1. Yeah, turn 2. Turn 2, you can win the game on turn 2. Yeah.
Yeah, because you still need to like draw cards to have enough for Dorbrick plus.
Yeah, Dorbrick needs 3 memory. I mean, I get you could double crush, but it's not gonna.
But then
work.
you don't have enough cards.
Yeah, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
Like it can be technically the fastest deck, but it's inconsistent. But yeah, sometimes it just red deck wins really really fast and wins before your opponent does something.
Yep, and
it's definitely a gimmick. Probably the most gimmicky deck here, even more so than Mother.
Yeah, and it's one of those decks that will always get support, like Machine Dramon, just based on the fact that it works with any deck that is Dragonkin or
whatever
Ceratopsian.
Yeah, all of the different types it eats up.
Yep. Tier 2.
Okay. Red Hybrid. Red Hybrid got a bunch of support this set.
I honestly don't know anything about this deck, so
okay. I've been seeing this deck. It basically is. Red Hybrid. It will always play Tamers for free. A lot of the new Takuya is a memory tamer that when they swing and check, they gain 2 memory as an inheritable. So they have a lot of ways to cheat out their tamers to keep the hybrid pressure, warp into their finishers for game. They have their new boss monster can delete stuff. Aldemon, the inheritable that they had before, means you don't check security bombs.
Yep.
It's pretty strong, could be pretty fast, but it can still be like pretty like just red inconsistent problems. But it's tier 1.5. It's still a really strong deck.
All right. Yeah.
I will say it's a solid tier 1.5. I think it does have red deck is a little inconsistent problems compared to purple deck, which mills and draws its whole deck. Greymon decks, which have a million searchers, and Cross Hunter, which has like 20 draw inheritables.
Does it lose to Hades Force as a hybrid deck?
Not really, because it kind of just evolves over to Tamers immediately, swings and replaces the Tamers.
Oh, do they
But
do they get rushed or something?
They don't get rushed. It's just Hades Force could like reset them one turn back, but they kind of just play it again. If they might also be too fast for Greymon to get there, but they also might get walled out by Greymon.
All right.
It's hard to get walled in this deck though, but because when they block you, they gain like a ton of memory.
Yeah, the memory with Emperor Grey. All right, fair enough.
Emperor Grey and Atomic Inferno, or the other part is.
Yeah.
So they're just trying to swing and pressure by swinging, but sometimes they're a little too inconsistent and like can have slower games than normal. It's a hybrid deck. It just tries to unfairly hit you out of nowhere.
Yep. All right.
And it does it better now.
Fair enough.
All right, Blue Flare. This has been one of your pet decks for a long time.
Oh, fucking Poo Flare, dude. The Poo Flare.
Tier 3?
It's tier 2. It's top of tier 2. This is just gonna be a gatekeeper deck. I feel like indefinitely. Like it just has matchups where you absolutely blow them out the water. Anything that has to play 2 or more Digimon just to do anything, like Poo Flare is gonna like dunk on you. If you're a stack deck or you can just win in like 2 or 3 turns, then you're gonna just like beat Poo Flare every time. And they technically got support this set with the Cross 7 Superior. You can cheat it out with Kaiser Nail. And as someone who was a believer in that strategy, I'm gonna tell you guys it's pure cope. It's so slow. Like you're gonna make your Metal Greymon for 3 memory. You have to Digivolve on top of the Metal Greymon with the Deca Grey or the Cyber Launcher to tuck in the Superior mode. So that's already 5 memory, and then you have to play Kaiser Nail for 4 memory to play out the Superior mode. So you're at 9 memory now total for your play, which is a lot. So even just with like Kiriha plus Blazing Boots, that's only 5. Like you're still passing over 4 memory. If you have Sword Joe, you're still passing over 3 memory. Like it's a lot. And yeah, the Superior mode is cool because like you can tuck something to the bottom of the deck and you can like make it a blocker for 17k. But it's still just slow. And this deck's best hands are like when you can make the Metal Greymon on like turn 3 and your opponent accidentally put out 2 Digimon and you just like double swing, make Zeeg, swing again, and then you put them at 0 security and then like that's it. So it's just tier 2. It's just matchup diff with this deck.
It's gonna be once it gets like its next little wave of support though.
Yes.
You do that pushes it?
So EX4, you get the new dual tamer that counts as Kiriha by itself, so you can play with Blazing Boost, which will definitely be a big boon to the deck. You get a second Melbergemon, which is like a huge boon to the deck for sure as well. I think the new Greymon and Grey's Nightmon and the Dark Knight stuff is like, I think that's troll. I think that's bait. And I do want to talk about the red flare version of Blue Flare where you play the Gimon base and you just play, it's basically just like Dorbikmon but with like Metal Greymon instead. I think that deck is really fun. I think it can be strong in the same way that Dorbic is, where like if you draw the right cards, you just swing for 5 checks and like your opponent can't do anything. But yeah, overall, I think this is just tier 2 archetype in general.
Okay. I've seen you play Blue Flare. I've tried it a couple times, it seems okay sometimes, but sometimes it just, when you're on the losing end of this deck, like losing against it, it feels so powerful.
Yeah.
But then the other games, it feels like it's just okay.
Yeah.
So it's very matchup dependent of the deck.
100%.
All right. The deck I lost to at Nats, Examon.
What deck, Bryce?
Oh, sorry, Examan. I have to call it that until I beat it again. This deck cooked me twice in a row at Nats.
Yeah, no, it's Exa mid still, probably Exa even more mid.
It did benefit a lot from Mulligan, more kind of the way I thought Massmon would benefit. This deck benefited as it started running a bunch of random events or like topping a bunch of random events out of nowhere.
Yeah,
but it's kind of like this borderline right here because it does still kind of shut out one stack decks, but also it's really slow. And some decks, there's a lot of good decks that eat slow decks.
Yep.
And also it has no answer to a Restaurant Superior mode.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I think you just lose to Hunters with this deck.
It could be like a lose the hunters and might be too slow for Beals. So it's like maybe top of tier 3, bottom tier 2 is where I'm going. Where do you want to put it? I have to, I think by right, put it top bottom tier 2. But what do you say?
Can you count every deck that we have here and put it exactly in between?
Oh, man. What do you say? It's in the middle.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. Top of tier 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, next blue deck, blue hybrid.
I know this deck was getting some sleeper tops in BT11. I don't know if that continues into BT12, but it's
gonna lose the hunter.
I feel like that might be correct.
I think hybrid decks are going to have a really tough time, except for red hybrid, just because it's fast losing because they're any quartz one deck.
Yeah, that's true. If you just make quartz mon, like what do they do? Yeah, true.
And any hybrid deck, they get shut down by quartz mon. Most hybrid decks don't really have hard removal.
Yeah, put it at the bottom of tier 3. That's probably right.
Yeah.
It can.
And I think blue flare just does what this deck does better now.
Yeah. Oh,
which is what it should have been when it came out, but then it wasn't.
Yeah.
Because they had to nerf this little white boy right here.
R.I.P. Tommy. Yep.
All right. Deck that did get a pretty good amount of support. Imperial Digimon.
I think I'm a believer. I think this is top of tier 2.
I crapped on this deck yesterday.
Yo, top tier 2, bro.
Oh,
I'll streak for that one.
Surprise
yeah.
Omni. Hello.
Tech. So many tech cards now. You can do anything. Like you can tech quartz one in there. Yeah, you just do a lot of different things.
I think
Dino B's a broken card.
Dino B is a very good card. I agree.
Yeah.
It
makes the end turn Joggus a lot more valuable than it has to be. Yeah, it has no protection.
It has a lot of toolbox, for sure.
Yeah, it's toolbox stuff that you can work around with.
But does it just get outclassed by like?
But because there's no blockers in this meta now, like there's like 0.
Yeah.
Besides like River Rush and
Cherrymon.
Cherry Waters like that.
Yeah, big blocker though.
And the big blocker, that guy. But you can like you can. It's just the one time when they play tie or whatever.
You could bot that kid.
Also, something about blockers is the Dino B actually suspends stuff right now, which is
so nice. Now you can just end game without just suspending a blocker and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But Bielsa does like shit on it. Like,
yeah. So the new fighter mode is just like Nidhogg on crack, I feel like.
Yeah. But right now, top of tier 2, I would say.
From what I've seen of this deck, I would say top of tier 2 is fine. I don't think it's quite tier 1.5. I think it's like just below that.
Yeah. You get like someone like Dan Bang, yeah.
I did definitely underestimate the new XV and Stingmon gaining you memory because I didn't realize the synergy between end of turn plus that means they're effectively better versions of like the old XV and Stingmon that played for 3.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're more valuable when you digivolve them because you still get that memory gain later.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like those cards I highly underestimate. I think they're really good for the bottom end of this deck. The new top end stuff's like okay. I thought the new Imperial Fighter mode's like a Nidhogg. The new Imperial Digimon's kind of just goes into the new Fighter mode, or the new Dragon mode. The old Dragon mode is just better. The old Fighter mode is kind of similar, but the new bottom end and mid stuff, like the Dino B plus all of the new level 4s and level 3s, are really, really good.
That was my experience playing against this deck yesterday for the first time. Was that the mid or bottom end is excellent, but it still putters out the top end.
The top end is like still the same. It's still good, and also they play 2 broken cards that are blue and green.
Yep, I think this is.
I still have HPD.
You can still God Hand with Imperial. You can still God Hand. If you go second, if you go second and open XV Sting Davis, you're probably gonna win.
You're golden.
Unless Beals is just faster somehow.
I don't think you can get faster than that.
Or Rashomon just bottom decks, or not bottom decks, like puts it under. Besides that, but you already did all your things by that time.
Okay. Sorry, you open XV Stingmon Davis and HPD. Okay,
Davis
sorry. I forgot the HPD.
So you gotta open your one of. Yeah. All right. Speaking of, next we have Armor. There is less Digivolve in the meta, which means this deck actually has a chance. And this deck actually has problems with big walls. This deck makes a pretty big wall.
Do you not just put the Magnamon X underneath the Davis with Hunters?
Like I said, I think the decks that Beelzemon loses to, Hunters beats. And that's one of the reasons why Beelzemon's just a better deck. Because Hunters exists as a deck.
Yeah. Do you beat Beelzemon as armors? I guess you have protection against their deletion. Okay, yeah, okay, maybe. Yeah, I hear
You
it.
just make it harder.
All of your blockers are huge because you have the boost from Magnamon plus the boosts from plus the boosted Magnamon X. You really can't break through.
I feel like the Magnamon X has to, like, if you do the Magnamon with the yellow option, what is it, Golden Knight, into Magnamon X play, or even not, even if you just like Magnamon to gain the boost and then into Magnamon X, right? I feel like that's only does anything after like turn like 4 or 5 because they need armors and trash.
What I was going to say is I haven't played with the new Beelzemon X antibody stuff yet, but I have played against the Beelzemon deck prior to BT12, and it is incredibly quick, and it only gets quicker and more powerful. And I've played against armors, obviously, as we all have, and it's a pretty slow deck. So if you draw the right hand, sure, it can compete, right? But in general, it's just going to lose to the speed of Beelzemon.
Tier 3, it does get EX4 support similar to Blue Flare, and that's like EX4 waiting room. I think that's pretty solid. It might bring it back up to tier 2. But
Agreed.
For now, we'll put it tier 3. Our tier 1 profile is a little light, but it's okay. Next up, we have Melga, one of the most annoying decks of all time.
Oh, I'm ready. I'm so ready, Bryce, to put this deck in tier 2.
Hey, tier 2. It's like the fastest OTK deck, except for Beelzemon, which is not really an OTK deck. It's just a fast deck.
This deck gets shit on by Beelzemon. I don't think there's any way you can win against Beelzemon with this deck.
No. Yeah, it gets shit on by Beelzemon, and Minerva Loop actually had answers once they got Mervo, because they could make retaliation blockers. It gets shit on by Quartzmon, because then they can't do their combo.
I was gonna say, Hunters can beat it too if they make Quartzmon.
Yep.
It's gotten walled out by Wargreymon. It actually has answers, finally. Deck is still obnoxious, though. It can still just God Hand you and win on turn 2 or 3, just like Beelzemon. So
yeah, that
still gives it a tier 2 status. It's faster than Grandis and more flexible. Because they're topping out at level 5 and with some level 6s instead of topping out at level 6s that you absolutely need.
Yes, based Bandai realized that they were making answers to this deck and did not hit it on the ban list in their infinite wisdom.
I was thinking they should hit it, but I guess they're just more right than I was.
They knew.
All right, that's pretty much. It's the same deck, but it has answers, so it's worse.
There's finally things that can like stop it from murdering you in 2 seconds.
Yes.
All right. Next up is Ulforce.
Uh,
Ulforce got one new card this set. It got the Ulforce X antibody.
People are saying that the Ulforce X buffs the deck, but I don't see how it makes it any better or faster than the Mirage Galgamon that people were playing did.
No, is it just kind of gives you a toolbox of a card that can unsuspend during your opponent's turn and not just your turn. So you can actually like have use your arenas during your opponent's turn to have a multi-blocker.
Oh, okay, yeah. That makes sense. I understand. Because I thought the Mirage Galgamon was pretty good. So I'm reading Mirage Galgamon and I'm reading Ulforce X. I'm like, I feel like these are both equally good in different situations. So I don't understand how people are saying that Ulforce X makes the deck any better. But yeah, now that you're mentioning it, yes, it does let you use Arena on the opponent's turn. So yeah, I guess.
It gives you a multi-blocker on your opponent's turn.
Yeah.
And also it's searchable in the deck as opposed to Mirage, which is just a tech card. That said, this deck is sometimes takes some setup. Obviously, sometimes you can just hit their setup for free for hitting the security, and it hard loses to Quartzmon.
Yeah.
This deck literally can't play the game if you Quartzmon them.
True. Cannot unsuspend.
So, and that's like the whole gimmick of the deck, that just tries to repeat unsuspended. So, and also all of their tamers get locked, and so they can't do anything with it. Yeah. I think it's tier 2. I think it's maybe Dorberg's a little worse than these decks, but it's kind of like in the middle of tier 2.
Yep.
I think I'll move both of these up. I think they're kind of like right next to each other in what they do. This one's a little faster. This one has a little bit more flexibility in making like blockers and gaining a bunch of memory. Our tier 2 is looking pretty big. Our other tiers are a little less so. But. Next up, we have Yellow Hybrid. So we were talking about this the other day, and we were saying that there has to be a good Venusmon deck, because Venusmon is such a crazy card, and actually is pretty good against basically everything in the format.
Yes.
Is it yellow hybrid?
I feel like yellow hybrid is just by default the best solo yellow archetype because Bandai has been ignoring this color since BT7.
Yeah, they niche support here and there, but like they never got like a new archetype that's like really viable, or like they got like 1 or 2 cards like every set maybe.
Yeah, I think the best support yellow has gone is Venusmon itself since BT7. So
Venusmon is a crazy card, but
yes. This is probably top of tier 3.
top of tier 3, it doesn't make it tier 1.5 set or tier 2 status.
Venusmon is good. I don't know if it's that good.
There's also Quartzmon. And Quartzmon is
Yeah.
just tamer decks.
Yeah.
Like, even though if you can maybe get to Venusmon, but it still doesn't do anything against Quartzmon. It just kind of stops it for a turn.
I don't know. And looking at our tier 2 currently, it looks like it gets outclassed by almost all those decks.
Yeah.
So it still does healing shenanigans sometimes, but yeah. Next up is Security Control. This deck we've historically said Security Control is a tier 1 deck for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's time to finally move this boy down.
Yeah. I think
Maybe even to tier 2.
Yeah, I think every single tier 1 1.5 deck has a really good security control matchup.
Hybrid deck, they've had historically problems with hybrid decks. Crosshair decks are kind of hybrid decks.
Yep.
Cross Hunter is pretty good for the same reason.
Yep.
And Beelzebub X Antibody trashes your security and is really fast.
Yeah, and Greymon has protection against deletion effects, so...
They don't have protection against Chaos Degrade unless they're playing Yuya, but still, it was having problems. Like, I thought it would be decent against Blackwood X when Blackwood X was the best deck, but it was still struggling in that format as well, even though it got some tops here and there.
Yep. Yeah, even in the national tournament, which was like the tournament where Blackwood X was the best deck, if Security Control was going to show up to counter that deck, it only had like 2 people made top 32 with Security Control?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that speaks for itself.
And I think Cross was like the 3rd most popular strategy, and Cross eats this deck, and now it's a more popular strategy.
Yep.
So yeah, but it's still tier 2. You know, any deck that makes 1 stack and doesn't have protection and isn't a hybrid deck, Chaos Degrade is still a good card, very strong card that auto wins games sometimes.
Yes, Degrade is still a good card, and Recovery is still a good keyword. So
and Venusmon also goes in this deck, so
true.
Better than
it's probably it's probably the better Venusmon deck for sure.
There might be a hidden Venusmon deck we don't know about. Like maybe there's like an Alfani loot type list that's really, really good, but I don't know what it looks like.
The new Yellow Hunter cards.
Yeah, I was messing around with that. That was pretty fun. Just felt like I'd rather just play Hunter.
Someone will figure it out.
Maybe there's someone cooking that will make the Venusmon deck really strong.
Yes, sir.
Especially since the new level 5s that you repeat the minus security attack and stuff, so you can just permalock something.
Yep.
Anyway, last deck on the tier list, and it's a new deck, sort of, is the new Shine Greymon stuff. It lets you play Marcus for free. Does similar things before, where it minuses all of your tamers, and then gives it's very gimmicky. I feel like it's my opinion of this deck. It's kind of how X Antibody was in like BT7, where it wasn't finished yet.
Yeah.
It feels like it's missing the pieces that make it strong, but it's starting to get there.
Yeah, you need that other Marcus that turned himself into a tamer. Is that this Marcus?
We got the good Marcus now, but we need the Greymons to support it right
now. That's right. We don't have the Greymons. Yeah,
there is another Marcus we're missing, but that's not the one that's like insane.
That's not the one that turns itself into a Digimon.
The insane one's already out. It already got that, but it's just incomplete. Kind of how Duo Greymon was insane. It just didn't have the card needed for it yet.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
I think that I was playing against this deck. It had some cool things it did. I think it's still like tier 3, and it is new stuff. And also gets to use Greymon and Agumon support if it really wants to.
Yeah.
And if it can combine kind of with Yellow Hybrid, because they have like similar packages. But it's tier 3. It's incomplete. It's kind of how Beelzebub was like some formats ago, where it was like missing the pieces, and then once it gets those pieces, it might shoot all the way back up here.
True. I mean, I think I've heard it's going to be tier 1 next format once it gets stuff.
Yeah, I heard you get to cheat out at level 7 or in all your level 7s and 6s for free.
The burst
You
mode.
have way more ways to play your cards. There's a new Greymon that plays like a tamer from security.
Yes.
It like TKs and plays it by digivolving, which is just a crazy amount of value.
That's true.
Yeah, deck is in its support waiting room. It's just slightly incomplete, and it gets some stuff in EX4, and then finishes off in BT13. And I think that's it. Anything last minute changes we want to make? Anything you want to move up or down?
Yes. Can you move Examon in between Crimson Mode and Dorbic? It is now exactly in the middle.
You're so silly. Anything I should move up to tier 5 or tier 1?
Yeah, I think this is a very diverse format. This is like, yeah, strong decks all the way down to tier 2.
Yeah, and I think this deck's kind of the boogeyman. Might be a little too strong compared to everything else.
Yeah.
But aside from this, there's so much diversity in the format.
Yeah, it has the highest bullshit factor for sure. So
It's also stupidly consistent, honestly. Even though you'd think like a milling deck would be inconsistent.
Rivals
I'm actually
Barrage, fix
I'm actually
that.
move this deck
It's a great
down.
fucking card.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, it's consistent and can also high roll. If I was to make a guess, I would say that there's probably at least like 2 decks that are like here that might move their way up. Like I'd say maybe any of these 5 decks might move themselves to 1.5.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think this is pretty accurate for the tier list.
Yep.
I don't think people say Cross is one of the best decks so far. I think it's like the tied for like the 3rd best. I think
Yeah, it's
these
up
2
there.
decks are kind of like the same.
Yep.
But I think these 2 decks are better. This is more well-rounded and this is more bullshit.
Yep. Judgment Dragon, 4 names. Priority.
Yep.
I remember Lightsworn back in the day. This is a Lightsworn format. Well, if you haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh, it's the Mill and Ghost Turbo deck.
Yes. Yeah.
It's time.
It's
Time for people who love milling to go turbo.
It's
So I
time.
really do think it's more consistent with Rivals Barrage than like
It
other
needs to be.
mill decks in other games.
Yes. Can you imagine, bro, if there was like a Lightsworn, like when you mill this, add any Lightsworn back to your hand? It's like,
Yeah.
what?
Set itself in your back row, then add whenever you want.
Oh, true.
Exactly what it
Actually,
does.
even better. Yeah. God damn. All right.
Yeah.
Overall, BT12. I'm a fan. Beelzemon, I think, is the boogeyman. If it weren't for that deck, I think we'd be super diverse meta.
So far, I've had fun playing the format. Obviously, I have fun playing most new formats, but the format feels really, really, really fresh and really enjoyable at the moment.
I agree.
And I actually think Quartzmon is good for the meta because it makes a slow way to play the game very viable. It slows down the game so tremendously that like it gives both players time to like do other stuff in the game.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's I think that's it for our tier list. Any last thoughts?
None. Just a slurp.
All right.
Play Beelzemon if you want to win.
Flip Beelzemon if you want to win. I'm gonna try to skill diff with Cross Hunter and maybe Mervaloop when I'm feeling bored.
All right, I'm just gonna try to slurp.
God, you guys have been memeing too much. All right, you guys have a
good.
Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been fun. I know we don't do this too often, but tier list season. We gotta do it. We gotta send it for the boys
Yeah.
and girls if you play Digimon.
Yeah. All right.
Ooh, woo.
Ooh, woo. All right. GG's, everyone.